Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to our coffee times to talk about horror. And today we have part 2 of the September book releases. Because there were so many, like I had a list of 61, I decided to split this video into two. So the first 30 releases can be found in that first video that I'm gonna link down below. And here are the other 31 releases.
It's coffee time!
As always, they are all thrillers and horror books, and they go from middle grade YA to adult. I also have some non-fiction books. I do talk about the books in publication order, and also keep in mind that publication dates might vary depending on where you live. So we're going to kickstart where we left off last time, and it is very fitting because we are also starting this video with a horror middle grade. It is called Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave by Ali Russell. Born in a cemetery and raised in a funeral home, we follow a girl that obviously knows her way around the undead. This is a supernatural tale of a girl that has to solve the mystery, and that is the disappearance of a family heirloom. It has been said, it's similar to Wednesday, the TV show, so if that's something that you enjoy, then you get this middle grade book. Our 13-year-old girl is called Mystery, and she's used to the cemetery, she's used to, the dead, the funeral home, and she actually likes it. But unfortunately, a priceless family heirloom goes missing, and that means that the family business is at risk of being closed. They might lose the funeral home, so Mystery knows that she needs to find it. It sounds very atmospheric, especially for September, October, because it takes place at a cemetery. So this is one that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Also kind of gives me Sabrina, Teenage Witch vibes, because you have a funeral home and you have cemetery and family relics and stuff. So yeah, it kind of sounds like my cup of tea. Next we have a horror thriller called Bad Things Happened in This Room by Mary Still. And that title, chef's kiss. I love that title. This is the story of Willow, and she's trapped in a house and she is having trouble to differentiate now reality from what's not real anymore. I mean, if they would lock me in a room or in a house and I would not be able to go out at all for a long period of time, I do think most of us would lose their minds. This is a haunting psychological horror in which Willow is trying to determine if, she's being punished by her husband, if there's any other reason why she's being trapped. She doesn't know if it's her own mind playing tricks on her. She doesn't know if she really has lost touch with reality. So this sounds like it's going to be a book that is a little bit trippy, I feel like psychological horror can be sometimes like a fever dream because you don't know when the characters are, letting you know their situation. You don't know if they're imagining things, if they're crazy, if there is human evil, like the husband capturing her, keeping her there, maybe giving her medication. Like, is there anything else that's going on that it is man-made? Or is it really something inside of her mind that is the cause for her craziness, or basically for her losing touch with reality? I know a lot of people love psychological horror because it is always an unreliable narrator, because you never know what the character is going to do. It's going to say what's true, what's not. So if you love psychological horror, this might be one for you. We now go to YA horror, and we have The Silence by Diana Rodriguez Wallach. Hazel wants to do her school project on an abandoned farm. It's the Oakland Farms School for Girls, but people in town call it The Farm. She thought it was gonna be just another assignment, and she did a late trip to the farm to kind of investigate, gather information, but then something happened that night. She falls unconscious, and when she wakes up, she has this feeling that she needs revenge, but it's a feeling that doesn't seem to come from herself. So what happened to her in this farm? Hazel is going to have to really truly investigate now this farm, the locals, the town, and it becomes a lot more than a school project. So this sounds like a lot of fun because I also want to know what happened in the farm and why is maybe something in the soil, something evil, that when you enter it maybe kind of possesses you, changes you, because obviously she fainted and then woke up like with these desires that she didn't have before. The next one is a horror sci-fi and it's called Exiles by Mason Coyle. And I have read a book by the author before that I really enjoyed called William, so I'll be excited to see what he does next. A human crew is sent to Mars to investigate because there has been kind of a malfunction. They had sent to this base 3 robots and they find them in poor condition and they want to interrogate them to see what had happened to them, but one of them is missing. This is a hostile environment. We are at Mars. The base has been partially destroyed. Machines here have more of a human feeling that you would imagine. I think same as he did with William, which we had AI in that one. In this one, we also kind of are blurring the lines between machines and human beings. So the astronauts are being sent to Mars to investigate this case. They're gonna have to figure out what's going on with the machines, with the robots, what happened at the station. And I'm really excited about this one because I really did enjoy William. It was very different from what I was expecting, and I don't read so much horror sci-fi, but this one sounds like a book that I need to try. Next we have an adult horror thriller by the one and only Alma Katsu, and it's called Fiend. Now Alma Katsu is known for historical horror. I have only read one of her books, the one that was based on the Titanic, and I loved it, but it was very slow burn for me, and I don't think I got the payoff that I wanted from that book, but I still have to try more books by the author. This follows the Berisha family, and they've always been really successful. Somehow their rivals always had problems and they've always been thriving in the business and gaining a lot of money, but they also have a secret, and that is that this family has a demon that they control, a demon under their thumb, so the demon can do whatever, you know, they ask them to do. The patriarch of the family has not told their children the truth. He just tells the kids, you know, we're blessed as a family, you know, we're very lucky. But I guess as usual, when you try to make a deal with the devil, or with a demon in this case, at some point things are going to backfire and this family is going to go through a lot of bad things. So basically their pet demon probably is going to turn against them. Next we have a horror thriller called Galloway's Gospel by Sam Rebellin. This one sounds very interesting because it takes us to the same town and to 2 people called Rachel. One of them starts a cult in this town. It's kind of by mistake, you know, and she starts this cult in the local high school. And then 10 years later, there's another Rachel that is responsible to dismantle this cult. So Rachel in 2009 is bored and starts doing sketches and writing things, and everybody in her class starts to look up to that, and they kind of take it as a Bible almost. Like they turn it into a cult, so she kind of, you know, not even noticing, not something that she wanted, but she ended up creating a cult. And then in 2009, we have another Rachel that is a guard that is investigating this cult and is trying to dismantle it. I do love a good dual timeline, and this sounds very interesting. I would also be interested to know if there is any reason why these people are called the same. I don't know if these 2 girls being called Rachel has any meaning, but potentially, because why else would they be called the same? So sounds very mysterious. Then we have a mystery thriller that is also a Halloween read, so it's gonna be perfect for October, and it's called No Rest for the Wicked by Rachel Louis Adams. We are in a Midwestern town that is obsessed with Halloween, so can relate, and they start to think that things are taking a bad turn when one of the local politicians goes missing. We follow Dolores, who is a forensic pathologist, and she knows this town very well. She also knows that this town, when they celebrate Halloween, they go all out, but not just that, there's kind of like some mysterious deaths that happen, some bad things that happen in that place, and that's why she hasn't returned there. However, she's going to receive a call asking her to go and help because her father, which is the politician, has went missing. So Dolores has to go back to this town. So we have here another character going back to their childhood town where they have no good memories left, but of course when a parent reappears, disappears, gets murdered, the kids always have to go back. And we're gonna go back to it during Halloween season, so I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to read. The next one is another horror sci-fi, and this one is called Veil by Jonathan Jans. And this is the story of a father that will stop at absolutely nothing to save his family. It begins at night. People start to disappear from the parks. People start to disappear everywhere. Then it's daylight. People are screaming as they're being dragged into the woods, into the skies. People try to take refuge inside of their homes, but still the invisible creatures are able to come and get them. Nowhere is safe, nobody is safe either, but how can you stop something that you cannot see? There are some survivors though, and they start to figure out a way to be able to see them. So this sounds very interesting to me, because yes, it is the concept of kind of aliens or kind of like an foreign entity coming to Earth and taking the humans, but it's a little bit different because they're invisible. Humanity is really, really hopeless in this kind of scenario. There's not really a way they can defend themselves of something you cannot see. But of course, there's always survivors, and now we have to see what they do, if they're able to get their loved ones back, if they're gone forever, or if they can even defeat these invisible entities. Next we have a YA horror book, which is a sequel to a book called The Unfinished, and the new book is called The Others by Cheryl Isaacs. I do have a copy of The Unfinished. I got it at Yelp last year, but I still have not read it, so I guess this is kind of my warning to read it to see if I want to check out the sequel. Since this is a sequel, I'm only going to tell you what the first book is about. We follow Avery, who is a small town athlete, and when she is in one of her runs, she discovers a little pond in the middle of the woods. And unfortunately for her, by doing that discovery, she's also going to awaken something ancient, something evil that was dormant for some time. The black water from this pond is really kind of haunting Avery. It changes her. She's able to smell water, like it changes her physically as well. Remember stories like from the people in the town from all the times, urban legends, but are those legends of monsters true? The next book is Indigenous Horror, and it's called The Whistler by Nick Medina. Native superstitions say that you should never ever whistle at night, or you might awaken the evil and attract it. We follow Henry, and he was at the verge of fame. He was about to make it. He was doing ghost hunting videos, and unfortunately he had an accident, and that put him on a wheelchair. So he decides to move back to the reservation where he grew up with his parents to try and recover. But of course, apart from that, he's being hunted. I guess, you know, when you try to connect with the evil spirits and the undead, sometimes you get hunted by an evil spirit. And of course, it all started when he whistled at night, because that's something you should not do. Just for you guys to know, don't do that, just in case. Next we have a thriller called Who's All Going to Die by Lisa Springer. It's basically the story about a teen girl that is invited to the soft launch of these luxury retreat, and she finds that the wellness practices that they have there are kind of disturbing. Not just disturbing, but also deadly. So we follow Adriana, and she's really happy because she has been invited to Barbados to the soft launch of these beautiful luxury resort, and she's really excited about it. She needs a change. It's also a big change from winter in New York, so she's really excited about the whole thing. She's very excited about the resort because it's all about wellness, so she can get some treatments, but soon accidents start to happen. As things escalate, you know, and things turn more and more deadly, she realizes she might not be able to make it back home alive. Next we have some horror short stories. We have a book called Teenage Girls Can Be Demons by Hailey Piper. And if you've read books by Hailey Piper before, she also writes kind of cosmic horror, weird fiction, so you know kind of what to expect. These are 13 new coming-of-age stories, all by Hailey Piper. Another horror book coming out in September is The Retreat by Gemma Fairclough. And interestingly enough, we have here another wellness facility. I think it's a topic that it's coming more and more often in thrillers in horror, and honestly, why not? Because a lot of these places almost look like a cult or somewhere where, you know, maybe things are more dangerous than they appear at first glance. Richard's sister Yuli returns from one of these wellness resorts in 1994, and Richard is convinced that because she went there and because he thinks this was a cult, that's what caused his sister to commit suicide. Richard is not really fulfilled by his job at the moment. He's been trying for years, but it's not the life for him, and he decides that maybe to find peace, he needs to go to this resort and try to figure out what actually happened to his sister. Next we have a YA horror book called Kabi, and it is by Jill Glenn. Emma and Caleb move to a farmhouse and they think this is going to be their perfect, beautiful place to be a family and raise their kids. Emma is also pregnant at the moment, so basically they want this house for their growing family, for the kids to come, but they find something mysterious in the attic. And after that, things start to get weird. The dog of the family starts to bark for no apparent reason. Strange things are in the shadows. The baby's room doesn't seem right. And that thing that they found in the attic, sometimes some things are best left behind, and probably that's why people left it behind. This sounds like a typical story, you know, family moves into a new house with dark secrets. And honestly, I love when family find things in the attic, specifically when it's not just like a ghost or something from the get-go, when there is like an object or something that is found in the attic and is related probably to people that were living there before or centuries before, because I love cursed objects and I love things that are found in old houses. Next we have a horror thriller called Body of Water by Adam Godfrey. This says it's a book for fans of Stephen King's The Mist and for the show The Last of Us. 6 years ago, Glenn lost his wife in an accident and he's trying to kind of reconnect with his daughter, so he decides to go with her for a road trip and try to just, you know, reconnect and become friends again. They decide to go to the Appalachian Mountains and everything is going well until a group of armed men stop them. They start to talk about something being wrong with water, whatever, and Glenn is like, are these guys drunk or what's going on here? But is there something wrong with the water? What's going on in this place, and why are these men warning others? Are they lunatics? Are they correct? Are they really all in danger? Sounds a little bit like, you know, movies like The Ruins or books like The Ruins, where you go somewhere isolated where there might be something that seems like regular nature but might be hiding some evil in it. In this case, apparently something in the water. The next horror book that I have for you is another adult horror, and it's called The Haunting at Morsley Manor, and it is by George Maurice Daff. World-famous paranormal investigator Eric's career took a turn. Basically, he was almost left jobless because in one of his latest cases, most of his crew, like almost all of them, were killed, and then the rest of the crew just left him. So basically, he had a very bad turn for his career. I mean, when you play with fire and you go to these places that are supposed to be haunted, maybe one of them, if you hit 50, one of them is gonna be hunted for real and people are gonna get hurt. But then he's approached by a woman that has just purchased a manor and she thinks that this place is haunted, and she's asking him to do a paranormal investigation at her place. And I'm guessing Eric is gonna be like, you know what, I have nothing to lose, my career is basically down the drain, so I might as well just do this. So yeah, if you love paranormal investigation books and this kind of stories, then this one might be for you. Next we have another horror sci-fi. I feel like we have a couple of horror sci-fis coming in September, which is really nice to see. And this one is called Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. Kinsey has the perfect job. She is a team leader at a research facility and they are handling things that are very delicate, you know, like bacteria, viruses, and all of those kind of things. They are based in the desert, so I guess to kind of contain whatever they're working with. And she loves the solitude, she loves to work there, she likes to be kind of far away from civilization. In that regard, I understand this woman. Her crew discovers a specimen that is buried deep in the sand, and I'm gonna guess here that they touch it. Don't touch things. When you find specimens that are like frozen somewhere in the Antarctica or buried deep under the sand, don't pull them out, don't touch it, just leave it there. Unfortunately, they touch it and they also break quarantine, so now we're fudged. So this is kind of like The Thing, I guess, but in the desert kind of vibe, which I love. The next one is a YA horror book with werewolves, so it's nice to see as well that we don't only get vampires, but we also get werewolves, and this one is called Moonsick by Tom O'Donnell. This is the story of a girl that is trying to survive, where being a werewolf is basically a contagious disease that anyone can get. We follow Heidi. She is a high school major and she's really excited. You know, she has her life together, she has good parents, they have money. She's probably gonna go to Harvard, like her whole life is going according to plan. Now her mom and stepdad are away for a holiday, so she decides to throw a big party at her house. The party is gonna take place on a full moon, and there is this kind of epidemic that has been dormant, but now people that have been infected with the virus are going to turn werewolves exactly that night during the party. I'm really excited about this one because there's not too many werewolf books out there, and the ones that I have read that are YA I've really enjoyed, so I think I'm gonna enjoy this one as well. The next one is a horror fiction book called One of Us by Dan Chown. We are in 1915 and we follow 13-year-old siblings that are not going through the best of times. Basically, their mom has just passed away, and there is this con man that appears and pretends to be their, the kid's long lost uncle or something like that, because he wants to get custody, and they grant it to him. I mean, I guess in the 1915 times things were not checked or double checked as much. But then during a late poker game that turns deadly, the siblings manage to escape. The twins are kind of, going through life by themselves, and all they have had all their life, or mostly all of their life, is each other, but they're still trying to run away from this conman's supposed uncle. And they find refuge in like a bizarre traveling carnival. So I like where this is going. And it sounds like a very interesting story. Also, I like the setting. I like that we are in 1915. Makes things a little bit more exciting and different. Next we have a horror gothic historical fiction, and it is called Slashed Beauties by A. Rushby. This is a gothic feminist body horror, so say no more, body horror, yes please. This is a story told in 2 different timelines and that follow 3 women that are kind of like anatomical Venuses. They're basically unrealistic wax figures of women, but they come to life at night to murder the men that have wronged them. This sounds fantastic to me, sounds fabulous. One timeline is in Seoul and it is in the present time, and the other one is London, 1763. So I'm guessing we're gonna learn about 3 women that probably were wrong, that probably something was done to them, and then maybe their souls went into this wax figures. I don't know, but somehow the wax figures have a connection to them and they are just coming out alive at night to murder the people that have wronged them. Like, this just sounds like a beautiful dream to me. This is a story where I think the stories start kind of like separated, but then the stories start to intertwine, between the past and the present, and we start to realize that everything is a lot more connected than we believed in the first place, and this one sounds just so good. Next we have a horror mystery called Spit Back the Bones by Tegan Olivia King. It's been 3 years since Mila's brother Jed went missing, and the case has now officially went cold. Mila, after that, decided to flee the town. She didn't want to be there anymore because everything reminded her of the brother. Everything, was kind of like the ghost from her past trying to reach her all the time, so she just needed to break free. But then her younger sister Agatha calls her because she's about to graduate and she really wants Mila to be there, so of course she cannot say no and she's gonna have to return. Unfortunately, when Mila gets back to her hometown, she's being told that her sister Agatha, her little sister, is also missing. Mila realizes that the police is useless, as it mostly is in this kind of stories, and she is determined that she has to find out what's going on here because now she has lost 2 of her siblings. Next we have an interesting release because you remember Bunny from Mona Awad? Bunny is getting a sequel, and the sequel is called We Love You, Bunny. And I don't know how can I even describe Bunny to you, because everybody that has read this book can tell you that this is like a very unique, weird experience. You're loving the book, you're enjoying it, but when you get to the end, you're like, what the hell did I just read? Like, I don't know, but I loved it. Basically, Bunny follows Samantha, who starts to go to a very prestigious school, and the girls in her class are calling each other Bunny, and they're acting like stupid, and she really despises them. But then when she's kind of offered to join, she can't resist. And when she joins the bunnies, she realizes that the bunnies are doing certain experiments. She doesn't know what they are for, but she just joins, and the book just gets weirder and weirder as you go, but you are very compelled by the story. You want to keep reading. You don't know why you're reading. But I really enjoyed Bunny, and if you did too, Now you're getting a sequel. I do have another non-fiction book on the list of books coming out in September, and this one is called Why I Love Horror: Essays on Horror Literature by Becky Siegel-Spratford. Becky has been for 25 years a librarian, and she has been helping people to encourage readers and also to find what kind of books readers need. Also, you know, specifically she's been interested in horror, and this is why this book is coming out. I would really be interested to hear the perspective of a librarian for so many years and her take on horror. And this book includes essays by very popular authors like Paul Tremblay, Josh Malerman, Stephen Graham Jones, we have Grady Hendrix, also my baby, Rachel Harrison. So needless to say, I'm really interested in this book. The next one is an adult horror book called The Captive by Kate Burgoyne. This is like a dark comedy, and if you read the little synopsis, it's very funny. It's about a group of people that decide to kidnap a heiress, and then they realize that this girl is pregnant with the Antichrist. Sounds bonkers, and the type of book, honestly, that I would consider Grady Hendrix writing. You know, it's kind of like this kind of plot, this kind of fun. So it sounds crazy, but it might be a really fun book. This follows an underground revolutionary group called the Nail, and they decide to kidnap a girl that is 23 years old, and there is a heiress, you know, of a rich family, but they don't know that this girl is pregnant. They want to kidnap her because the parents have this company that they want to bring down. They want to end this company, cause trouble with the company. So they want to use, obviously, the kidnapped daughter as bait, or as kind of like something of leverage, so that they can negotiate with the company maybe and come to an agreement, or stopping them from doing certain things. But like I said, they didn't know that this girl was pregnant. Somebody needs to do their, you know, their homework first. And the fact that they say that this girl is pregnant with possibly the Antichrist, it's hilarious. I don't know, it sounds like the type of dark comedy that might actually really work for me. The next one is a YA horror fantasy, and it is called Hollow by Taylor Groth. Cassie has a meltdown in her school cafeteria, and she's being diagnosed with autism. So the mom decides that maybe it's time to take the family back to their hometown, where Cassie can relax a little bit, be around more familiar things, familiar faces. The problem is that Cassie's friends are not really willing to embrace her back into their lives. They kind of want to please their parents as well, the girls, so they're like, okay, let's invite her to this kind of camping trip we're gonna do, and Cassie goes. Unfortunately, something happens in the camp and all the other girls disappear except Cassie. Sounds like a great mystery, and honestly, these kind of camping trips are always fun to read. I always have a lot of fun with them. September is not a bad time because summer is not that far away, so it's still kind of like a cool story to read during September. Next we have an adult horror thriller, and it is called The October Film Hunt by Michael Wehunt. So there was a group called the October Film Hunt, and they used to go and camp at famous locations where horror movies were made, and they used to vlog about it. But after they spent a night at a cemetery that was the film location of a movie called Proof Demons, everything changed. Now Jory, that used to be the star of this group, has moved, has a normal life, has a kid, until a videotape comes in the mail and she suspects that somebody is watching her, spying on her. This one sounds very interesting to me because it seems to have many layers and different subgenres of horror. And you guys know anything with horror movie locations or haunted horror movies or curse horror movies or like stuff like that, I'm in. So I want to know why somebody's now stalking this woman. Is it because of what she used to do, because of their blog? Did something happen? What happened that night that made the kind of the group split, you know, after going to Proof of Demons location? What happened that night? So this sounds like a potential one for me because it has all of the elements that I like. Next we have a gothic horror thriller, and this one is called Widow's Point: The Complete Haunting by Richard Chismar and W.H. Chismar. Now Richard Chismar has done a couple of books that are kind of like borderline fiction mixed with true crime stories, and I think this one is gonna be the same. The residents of Harper's Cove all agree that there is something wrong with the lighthouse. Some say that this is a place that it is haunted, and others say that maybe the place is simply cursed. Originally built in 1838, some of the people that were working in the building of the lighthouse were killed. They died in mysterious circumstances. Tragic accidents happened that were never explained, and this kind of all started some, rumors about this place being cursed or haunted. In the decades that occurred, at least a dozen more mysterious deaths happened in that place, or at least around it, and that is why in 1988 they decided to kind of build a fence around it to avoid people from going too close to the lighthouse. I think that's when a group of investigators tried to get in to figure out what happened there, kind of do like an investigation in the place. And this sounds like a very interesting book to me. I do love that combination of fiction but with a little bit of true crime sprinkle on it. And this book is a book written by Richard Chismar, which we all know, but also his father, which I'm unfamiliar with, but it's very interesting, father-son combo. Next we have an adult horror book called Lover's Leap by Ricky Goodwin. Hazel is surprised when her high school sweetheart Finn suggests that they buy together in bed and breakfast, and they want to take their, respective loved ones with them to check out the place and see if the property is good for them and all of that. But I'm guessing when they get to the bed and breakfast, things are not gonna go that well. The current owners are elderly and they seem to have a problem with the new arrival of these younger couples. The place is very creepy. Some of them are having like DC spells, so it's fair to say that this bed and breakfast is cursed or haunted, and that's possibly why they wanted to get rid of it. If an offer is too good to be true, I always say it, probably it is. I mean, it's good that they went to check out the place before they bought it, because most of these horror stories, people buy the place and then realize what they did. But still, if you go there and nobody knows maybe that you're there, you might still be in a pickle, you might still not make it out alive. Next we have a horror adult fantasy. We have Demon Song by Kelsey Yu. This is a gothic horror that is based on Chinese mythology, so that sounds very interesting to me. Megan and her mom are running away from an abusive man, and they turn to friends and family in Beijing, and they kind of make them a deal, like an offer, that they can stay and sleep at a theater kind of house, but in order to live there kind of temporarily for free, they have to clean the place. So Megan, the daughter, obviously doesn't really speak Mandarin because they were living somewhere else before they had to flee and run away from this man. So she feels a little bit out of place until she meets somebody else, someone called Kirsty. But the opera, of course, has its secrets, and I think an opera theater is such a good atmospheric setting for a thriller, a horror. There's many horror movies that have had scenes or parts of it that take place at a theater, like one of the Scream movies did. But, it's just something so eerie about those places and all of the nooks and crannies and all of the dark corners and shadows. So this one looks very promising. Next we have a YA horror fantasy called Make Me a Monster by Kayleen Bayron. Mecca is used to death. She is now a certified assistant to morticians because she works at the family funeral house. So she's used to being around dead people basically, and lucky for her, her boyfriend Noah is not squeamish and he doesn't mind, and she's ready to, say those big 3 words. But suddenly tragedy will strike. There are ravens that are kind of flying around the building, around the funeral home. Strangers seem to be following her home. Somebody's leaving things at the door for her. But the worst thing of all is that the dead will not stay dead. The next one is adult horror, and we have The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. And since I saw this one announced, the title, the synopsis, and it's by Philip Fracassi, I was like, absolutely give it to me. This is dark humor, violence, and mystery. And I've only read The Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, but I love that book so much, so I'm ready for this ride. We follow Rose, and Rose is not your average final girl because she is 70 and she's in a retirement home. When one of her friends dies alone in their apartment, Rose is not really shocked, they're old, these things happen. Then another resident drops dead, and then another one, and then Rose is like, well, this is a little bit weird, like I know we're old and we have our illnesses and stuff and things happen, but this is a little bit sketchy. So together with her best friend Miller, Rose starts to investigate, and just the fact that you have a 70-year-old strong woman here trying to solve a mystery in this retirement home just sounds so good to me. I really want to read this book. It's very different, you know, from your typical horror books. And I think this is probably a type of dark comedy that will really work for me. Alright you guys, so those were the last 31 books that are coming out in September that I wanted to talk to you about. So with the 2 videos now, you have 61 new releases coming out in September, and so many like authors that I know are releasing books in September, and so many authors that I enjoy. So like I said in my other video, I think like September is gonna get my bank account dry. And it's already getting dry because I'm getting ready to welcome a child into this world. And let me tell you, it's expensive. So pray for me. But there's many books in September that I really want to read. So hope you enjoyed the list. Now you have the full list. I'm sorry if this caused you a lot of distraught. And I'm sorry if this is causing you also to spend a lot of money. But you know, you don't need to buy all of them at the same time, but at least you know which books are coming out. And we can get really excited because September is packed with amazing releases. So the best of the best maybe of the year, we shall see. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you guys as always so much for watching. And I hope to see you all as always in our next coffee time. Bye!